like to welcome everybody here. First thing on our agenda, we're going to have our roll call.
Town of Vidalia Board of Aldermen roll call for a regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen dated March 9th, 2021. Alderman Betts.
Present.
Alderwoman Denby.
Present.
Alderman Gardner.
Here.
Let the record show that Alderman Gardner is present and accounted for via telephone under the current state open meeting laws in place. Alderman Probst.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Mayor, let the record show a quorum of the board is present and accounted for.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. First order of business, we have a couple sets of minutes to approve. First one we'll go with is the emergency meeting that we had in reference to our ice storm that we had that was held February the 18th. Is there any questions on that? If there's not, I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
There is a correction.
Motion made by Alderman Denby. Do I hear a second?
No.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
There is a correction that need be on the minutes.
Correction.
I can't, Ms. Rose, I can't understand you.
She's got a correction.
Oh, okay, you have a correction?
Of course.
Yes, ma'am.
I was in attendance. I was not by telephone.
Oh,
This was the emergency meeting, I
I was
believe.
here.
she
It was only
got
two-
in,
Yeah,
she
she
was,
was
she
here.
got, she
Yeah, it was
did.
only two of us here
Yes.
present, and
She
that
made,
was
she
Alderman
made, she
Betts'
came
meeting.
in, from, she was, you walked in which started, but you didn't make it, I think, or which, yeah.
No, that was the February 9th meeting that
Oh,
I
okay.
was coming from Jackson, but I was here for the emergency meeting.
Oh, okay.
It
All
was
right, well,
only two
we'll,
of us here.
let's make that change and, we'll reflect that, and let the minutes reflect that Ms. Denby was here in person. Okay, with that correction, do I hear a motion, that we accept these minutes?
I make
I'll
a
that
motion.
Okay, motion made by Alderman Denby. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, I think Brent needs to say second by Alderman Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Rosa, for getting us straight on that. The second one is the meeting held on Tuesday, February 9th, our regular meeting. Are there any questions or additions or subtractions on that we need to discuss? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept these minutes.
Make the motion.
Motion made by Alderman Probst. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Alderman Denby. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. All right. First thing on our agenda is a report on the damages and cleanup efforts related to the winter storm. Man, where do I start on this? This is just, I'm 61 years old, and I can say that in the town of Vidalia, the only thing I can remember even get close to rivaling this was a lot of the damage and trees and stuff done by Hurricane Katrina in 2005 as far as limb damage. But I don't even think the limb damage was even comparable to what we saw in Vidalia. A lot of people know that I buried my father, and I had people travel from all over the state come to the funeral and to the visitation, and they told me that traveling, you know, they thought things would get better, but they said the closer they got to Vidalia, that my goodness, they said it was like a war zone with limbs and debris and stuff just had fallen out of the trees. So I would say that we had probably as much damage as anybody in the Miss Lou, and certainly probably within the state, just about as far as just concentration of damage. Anything that had a needle on it or had a leaf on it that could hold water, it just seemed like it took water and broke. And so having said that, I do want to say, Lee and Ricky and Jeremy and Cornell, y'all stand up. I just want a lot of people are watching this Facebook Live and will be watching this on YouTube. And I just, hey, clap with a hand for you guys. I have heard nothing but praise of how y'all handle stuff. I was there with y'all, seeing y'all, and I have never seen a professionalism and hard work and dedication to getting a task done, and interagency working together, working with contractors and getting the thing done and getting our town cleaned up with what we had. And I just want to say thank y'all so much. There's not enough can be said, and also the employees that y'all are responsible for. I saw them working together. Look, you see these guys pull up, and they go right to it. There's no discussion. They know what to do, and they were very, very professional. And thank y'all so much. And again, I'm sure our citizens are appreciative of it, because nowhere else in Vidalia but Vidalia can you get that kind of service and that kind of professionalism and abilities than what we have here. And I just thank you. Thank you so much. Rex, you?
Through the whole storm, never lost electricity, not one second.
You didn't?
No.
Well, congratulations.
You were lucky.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Lucky one.
Oh, okay, well, I'll back up to that. I did jump over to public comment on some of the agenda items, I'll back up to that. But well, since I'm on this, but I do want to go ahead and finish item one, then we'll jump back to the public comments. And those people can jump back and talk about it if they want to talk about this effort that we had. You know, we enlisted some local contractors to come help us, and they were instrumental in getting the power back on. And, you know, Jeremy and Cornell and Lee and a lot of the people, we got the contractors to come in, we hired local. And what we did was, in the past, when we have outages, the linemen will go out and wind up doing a lot of tree work. Is that not right, Jeremy? They do a lot of tree work, how to remove these limbs before they can even start repairing lines and so forth. So Jeremy and them requested to get these crews in to get out ahead of them and get these limbs cleaned off of power lines, trees, trimmed back where they could actually go in there and start working right immediately. And I want to say that they worked perfectly together and that they restored power way quicker than it would have been if we didn't have these contractors going out ahead of them doing the cleaning up the debris that was over the power lines and so forth. And I just can't say enough about those guys. LUS, Louisiana Utilities Services, was here for 3 days, and those guys rolled in a bunch of trucks. It was a caravan of them coming in. I was down at the water plant when they come rolling in. I was going looked like the cavalry was rolling in, and they were very helpful. We have a response through our relationship with LIPA where we can have this kind of help. It does come at a cost, of course, but I think the good news is, and I'm gonna give you a report on some of these costs that we had, but and I was glad. One of the good things about our town is, hey, we had the money to pay it,
Yep.
and we had that. It's not we're having to search for funds and beg for money to pay for these things. Now, that being said, we are filing on our insurance. We are going to try to get what monies we can from the state through FEMA and GOSEF to get reimbursed on a lot of these costs. So the total cost related to this to date has been around $370,000. And I'm just tickled to death that we have the money to be able to do that. In fact, I'll be asking the council here in a little bit, is there any particular fund? Deborah will be talking about where we can take the money out until we get the reimbursement to put it back. Of course, this will mean going in, this was monies that's not been budgeted, so it will require an amendment to our budget at some point in the next few months to address this. But we do have money sitting in different accounts and different investments where we can pay this. So I do want to, you know, after recognizing them and what the work that they've done, you know, a lot of people were wondering, you know, how did you hook people up that you passed over others, you know? And Jeremy and them, there is a process that they use. It's not that they're wanting to slight anybody, but because of the way, if you look at how our power runs around our town, if they can fix one area that's going to get 50 people back up, and there's one line that's going to only get up 2 or 3 people that requires an extensive amount of work, they're going to get as many people up quicker, and that's how they pick and choose who they can do. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your position is in life. If you're not on a line that you're going to be able to help get a lot of people back on quickly, you will be one of the later ones to get put back on, and I think any of us would understand that. I do apologize for the disruption that we had in water. I think that's the first time we've seen this in our town, I think, to that degree. Is that right? I mean, of course, I've only been doing this I'm going into my 5th year. Have y'all had this before at the water plant where the tank was completely drained dry? And in addition to the broken lines that we had from the freeze, and then people opening up their spigots to do that, it completely drained our tank. But I am proud to say that the alderman recently approved, we're going to double expand our water plant to handle twice the capacity. Hopefully we won't ever have this problem again. Hopefully that we can get more aggressive on our of getting trees cleaned back. A lot of that work was done preparatory work by contractors while they were in there with equipment, those trees that they could trim back and make sure we don't have limbs overhanging a lot of our power lines, they got while they were in there. So that is another plus that we've got. But there's more work to do on that. And I'm gonna be getting with Jeremy and Ricky, and we'll be identifying those areas that need that cleanup, so we lessen our chance of having something like that tear down so many power lines, and get real aggressive on some trees that need to be taken down as well. So, is any of our, Jeremy, you or Ricky or Cornell or Lee want to say anything?
But I'd like to just thank all the city workers that, I've never seen them work together like they did during that ice storm, and I really want to thank them, appreciate it.
Okay, appreciate that.
One thing I want to say is, I talked to Cornell about the water. He told me, he said, we probably got better water than we ever have now, though, don't we, Cornell? He flushed everything out of there.
They
He got
did.
rid of all of it, all
They-
the waste.
Well-
Because as you saw it come through your lines and stop up your drains, it was going away, wasn't it, Cornell? So, yeah, he said
That's-
we'll
that's
have
good.
better water than we've had in a long time.
Yeah, they said it was,
So
I think,
that's
since the best water the plant's been putting out better water it has in a long time. And
Yeah.
that's, there's some things we need to do at the water plant. One of the things that they found out was that the valves that were under ice, and some of them were even under asphalt on some of the overlays, they couldn't find, they go, we can't find our valves to turn the water off, because they had to turn those valves off because water was still going out from the tank. So one of the things we'll be asking for is a primary cutoff at the tank going into the town. So if we ever have something again where we have to turn that off, where they can refill the tank or do work on the tank, we want to be able to do that without having to go look at all those different area neighborhoods. They can just go to one area and turn off the water. So they'll be talking about that more in the future. So does any of the aldermen have any questions about any of the costs, or anybody have any questions?
I'm just glad we spent the money to get the people what they needed to take
Yeah.
care of. That's what we needed to do.
Yeah, well, a lot of people that can be happy with, they can say, well, God, it was a lot of money to spend, but guess what? It's not gonna cost them anything extra. It's not gonna cost them. We had the money, we've been very, very good stewards of the town's monies, and we have the money to we try to restore life to them as quickly as we could, and I think everybody did a fantastic job. Everybody involved, the contractors, Michael, Global Loan, Michael Strickland, and then Cade Craft has, I don't know what he calls his, that was a couple of local, Cade's no kin to me, okay, Craft, he's no kin to me, so I want to make people completely aware of that that's not aware of that. But anyway, now, if anybody in your districts are still having issues with water or anything, or limb pickup, please let us know. And I'm gonna go ahead and premise this before we move on, is that, probably people are already starting to see a utility bill, or that we're scared to death about the utility bill. I want everybody to know, the town of Vidalia just not arbitrarily just go and increase your bill trying to pay for this $370,000. We have money to pay for that. The increase that you will be seeing in your bills will be, that's what we had to pay for what services you did use. The gas had the largest spike in natural gas in the history of natural gas sales. There was a 2 or 3 day spike there that, the town has to buy, and whatever that cost is that you use, we just pass it on. So it's not the town making any extra money on electricity or the gas, but we will see, I think, an increase in our utility bills. I'm sorry. There's programs for people who can go to LIHEAP and get these one-time things for each season, help on their utility bill. I encourage those citizens to seek that help so they can deal with their utility bill. So, any other questions on
No,
this?
I was just gonna say, I had people ask me all the time, what is it about Vidalia? Why do I wanna live there? And there they are right there. I mean,
Yeah,
that was just unbelievable.
yeah,
It really is.
yeah. So, and we're proud of you guys, really are. I mean, I could sit here and just glow all night and just make your head, you leave here, your head up here around, but it just, they probably said, oh, I don't want a big head, I'd just rather have a bigger pocketbook, and I understand that. So, okay, let's back up. Now we're gonna go to, as we know, we normally have to take public comments on our agenda items. This is a time that we have any kind of public comment. Anybody have a question on anything on our agenda? If they have a question, and this would be that time, we'll open it up to the public. Any question? I'm not gonna say that you can't chime in later, you know, or participate. But has anybody got any questions on anything on the agenda, on this particular agenda? Anybody? Okay, I don't see any, so we're gonna move on. Number 2, I'm happy to say we have Scott Adams here with Silas Simmons. Scott, I'm gonna ask if you'll come to the microphone, and he's gonna give us our, Silas Simmons finished up their audit, and it's been approved by the legislative auditor, and he is here tonight to present this to us, and I think I'm excited about what he's gonna show y'all.
Is it okay to?
Yeah,
Yes,
please.
got a little distance
We
here.
want people to hear what you have to say.
Well, just on behalf of Silas Simmons, I just want to say we appreciate the opportunity to serve as y'all's external auditors. You know, if you might notice, I'm not Wes Gore. He's about 1.5 feet taller than I am. I'm Scott Adams, for those that haven't met me, but you know, we have a long-standing relationship with the town, and we do value that relationship, so we do appreciate the opportunity. The second thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you to the mayor, thank you to Deborah, thank you to the staff y'all have here at Town Hall. When we were requesting information, and we asked for a lot of things, invoices, statements, you know, they kind of disrupts their probably daily activities, but they got us what we needed. And that's, again, we thank you for that very much. In front of you, you should have our audit report, and there's 2 little inserts in there. One is a little executive summary that I'll go through with the audit report, and then the second is a letter addressed to the mayor and the board of aldermen, which has some required communication, which I'll save that for the end. As far as the audit report itself, you know, pages 1 through 3 is where we issue our audit opinion on the financial statements. The rest of the information really is the responsibility of the town and the management here at the town of Vidalia. I won't read verbatim everything in this report, obviously, but I will just, pages 1 and 3 where we issue our audit report, our auditor's report, it kind of outlines what management's responsibilities are, which are the financial statements. Then it talks about the auditor's responsibilities, which we have to follow certain standards and things of that nature. But on page 2 is where we actually issue an opinion, and the opinion is we've issued an unqualified opinion on the June 30th, 2020 financial statements of the town. An unqualified opinion means we do believe that they are fairly presented in all material respects. So that's known as the clean opinion or the good opinion. There's also some required supplementary information in here. It's required by government auditing standards. We don't issue opinion directly on that information. Of course, if something had come to our attention that was conflicting in some nature, we would have included that here, but we had no issues there. And then there's some other just general informational type schedules throughout the report itself. We do issue an opinion on that. We do compare it with our audit procedures and other information we've obtained, and we've also issued an unqualified opinion on that as well. Again, a clean opinion. Pages 4 through 10 are the management's discussion and analysis. This really just kind of puts some of the financial information more into a narrative form. Again, I won't read through that verbatim. It also includes some comparative information from June 30, 19 to June 30, 20. I'll kind of hit a few numbers here, starting on page 11, which is the government-wide statement of net position, which is basically the assets, liabilities, and the net position of the town. The total assets at June 30th, 2020 stood at a little over $76 million. That's about a $4 million increase year over year from the prior year. The 2 items that really kind of made up that increase were the capital assets increased by about $1.3 million, and then there were some restricted assets, which were primarily the hydro funds. Those increased about $2.7 million year over year. So that's the primary increase there in the assets. The deferred outflows on that page deal with the net pension liability, and that would be with the town's participation in the various Louisiana retirement plans. There wasn't a whole lot of change there. Total liabilities stood at about $20 million at 6/30/2020. That was about a little under $1 million increase year over year. And then really the biggest contributor to that was about $650,000 increase in the net pension liability. And that's strictly just based on actuary assumptions and things of that nature. So not necessarily a cash item, but still one that's reflected in your financials. Overall, if you're looking at the bottom of page 11 there, the net position of the town stood at $58 million, which was a little bit over a $3 million increase from 2019. So obviously, in that respect, headed in the right direction. Page 12 is the government-wide statement of revenues, expenses, and change in net position. The program revenues overall were just shy of about $17 million. This was actually an $8 million decrease from the prior year. However, there were two kind of one-off items in June 30, 2019 financials. You had the $4 million related to the Project Blue income coming in, and then there was about $4.4 million that came from the state related to the barge loading facility.
Yeah.
So that was about almost $8.5 million right there that really aren't annual type things. And that basically accounts for that. The general revenues, which are sales tax, ad valorem taxes, the hydro royalty funds fall into that category, stood at about $18.6 million for the year, which was a $1.6 million increase. The two biggest items I saw there were the hydro royalties were up a little over $1 million, and the sales tax was up about $350,000 year over year. So that represents the bulk of that increase. The operating expenses stood at about $32 million, which was about a $400,000 increase from the prior year. I kind of looked across the board. I mean, there's a lot of line items that those kind of fall into. I didn't really see anything that was a significant spike per se, just general operations of that nature. But and then finally there at the bottom, the change year over year was about $3.4 million, which again was to the positive, so headed in the right direction there. I'll point out, I won't go through the entire schedule. On page 13 is your governmental funds. At the second to last line is the total fund balances for the governmental funds. Just want to point out there that they're all positive fund balances. You know, deficits in those columns right there can typically bring a little more scrutiny or oversight from the legislative auditor or even grant agencies, but happy to report that those are all positive. Same with on page 18, which is dealing with the proprietary funds, which is more or less the utility funds. Again, positive balances across the bottom there. All right, pages 13 through 20 there are the fund financial statements. That just gives a little more detail into some of those numbers that I went over. Pages 21 through 50 are the notes to the financial statements. Won't read through those, obviously, but that gives just additional detail. Say if you see a line item for capital assets and you want to see what that's made up of as far as utility system or furniture and equipment, buildings, land, that kind of thing, or bonds, how they pay off, maturity schedules, all that stuff's contained in the notes to the financial statements. Pages 51 through 58, again, some required supplementary information from the government auditing standards, some budgetary comparison, some additional schedules related to the pension liability. You know, again, the required supplementary information is presented there, but we don't necessarily present any type of opinion on those schedules. However, if we did find something that conflicted with them, we would have reported that as well. Pages 59 to 62 are some other supplementary information, which is some additional schedules. As I explained, I guess, on the auditor's report, we do issue an opinion on that information. and it was an unqualified opinion. There was no conflicting information through those schedules. And finally, on pages 63 to 68 is our internal control and compliance reporting. I won't read that, the full extent of that report, but the verbiage there goes on to say, while we do gain an understanding of the internal controls here at the town, the purpose of our audit is not strictly to, check every single control that's in place or every type of compliance item. It's strictly controls related to the financial reporting process and compliance with the financial reporting process. We did have one finding to report, which is located on page 66. And this relates to timely deposits with the town court fund. And we found this during the 6/30/19 audit. Of course, we did that audit once the 6/30/20 fiscal year was ongoing. So therefore, that was happening for a few months into the next year. So that's why it's reported here. But if you read through there, it was corrected before the end of 6/30/20. In fact, I believe it was corrected within the month that we reported it, the prior year's audit report.
Scott, just for clarification, so in essence, that's the only finding with that was just a carryover since we didn't get the report until we got into the new year. That's why it was even showing up this year. So in essence, there was no other findings that we had. Basically, there were no findings other than this carryover that we didn't know about until, which had never been addressed in previous audits, but for some reason was brought up at that point. It had been done like that for years, and then we corrected. But anyway, that's okay, but I'd like to look at this as really almost as no findings. I mean, it's just like, everything we've done, and I just, go ahead, I'll come back to that.
Right, and that's correct. It just, like I said, there were a few months in the year that it carried over from the prior 6/30/19. So, and we do detail in there that it had been corrected as of 6/30/20. So that's right.
Okay.
Any questions related to the audit itself? I know that's a lot to take in a short period of time. I could go through the entire thing, but I got a feeling not everybody would want to hear everything. The last thing I have there is just those 3 pages, a letter of just some required information that we have to give to those that are charged with governance. No significant issues. Typically, if we found something outside of maybe the scope of the audit, it would be, we would communicate that to you in this separate letter. I can just tell you this is all pretty standard language in here, and there's nothing no issues identified or anything significant in that matter.
Okay. Any questions from council?
Sounded like a good report.
Yeah. Well, and Scott, I think, look, these guys come in and they set up shop and they're here for weeks going through. I mean, and when he talks about how Deborah and her staff, are right there, Johnny on spot, giving them things. We hear of other towns that hadn't even had filed a financial report for like 2 or 3 years, and I'm proud of the work and the monies that she and her staff are able to keep up with, and bills and everything that they do. And it's really a testament that we are really blessed to have the staff that we have. And your report reflects that. We never, I told her, I said, please tell me we didn't have to find that, because I know we worked very hard to establish policies and procedures to get rid of those. So he said, well, that was a carryover. I'm going, come on, man. But anyway, that's okay. But I thank y'all for your work and appreciate what all you do for us.
All right, well, I appreciate y'all's time, and of course, this is one time I get up here and stand in front of everybody, but if any time during the year you start flipping through this thing or just have any questions in general, we're right across the river or a phone call away. We'd be glad to help.
Okay, thank you again. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank y'all.
Okay. Okay. All right, next thing we have is, speaking of Deborah, and she's going to give our financial statement presentation for January 2021.
Tonight's meeting Tonight's financial statements include the balance sheet as of January 31st, 2021, the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for the 7 months ending January 31, 2021, a summary budget to actual comparison by fund, and a detailed budget to actual comparison by department. These financial statements have been distributed to all departments and aldermen for their review. In summary, the town has combined cash in the bank of $8.9 million, including restricted funds of $7.1 million in the hydro fund and $559,000 in the sales tax fund. We have investments of $3.9 million, which are they're in CDs or money market accounts, but the hydro has $2.4 million and the general fund has $1.5 million. Total assets are $35.4 million. Total liabilities are $7.2 million for fund balances of $28.2 million. The statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance for the 7 months ending January 31st, 2021 indicates combined revenues of $18.2 million, or 49% of the total revenue, which is 9% under budget. Total expenditures of $19.7 million, or 54% of total expenditures. Expenditures are under budget by 4%. The net change in position is a negative $1.4 million. The negative change in net position is due to revenues have not caught up with the timing of the expenditures. The negative position is beginning to turn around and will continue to move in a positive direction over the next few months as ad valorem taxes and as occupational licenses are received, and with the projected increase in hydro royalties. For the month of January, the royalty for the month was $1.5 million, with a production cost to the town of $787,950. The increase in royalty percentage and higher production will cause the royalties to increase over the next few months and bring the town back into a positive net position. Personnel expenses are slightly higher than budget due to the retiring of several long-term city employees with built-up accrued leave time. We do not budget for retirement payouts. Included in these financial statements is the hydro royalty rebates, which I reported in previous meetings, of $1.28 million. The rebates were mailed out in November and were 62% higher than the previous year. These financial statements also include capital outlay of $2.7 million of a $5.4 million budget, or 58% of the total amount budgeted. It is anticipated not all capital outlay will be spent in this fiscal year due to change in need and due to the length of time needed to make the preparations for the expense, resulting in a carryover to fiscal year 2022. At the end of January, expenditures were at 54% of budget. During the month of February, the town incurred approximately $370,000 for emergency work and debris removal during and after the winter storm. We have opened a claim with the insurance company and have prepared a request for public assistance through FEMA. The entire process will take months to complete and receive funding. Through March the 9th, $2.4 million has been borrowed for the substation construction to cover materials, engineering costs, and legal fees incurred. The aldermen have been notified before the draws are made so that they can be aware of where the money is being spent. All costs are recorded as capital asset and as a liability on the balance sheet. The appraisals are complete for the right-of-ways, and negotiations are pending for the acquisition of these right-of-ways. Construction at the city court building is ongoing, but the mold cleanup is finished and the windows have been sealed, ceiling tiles replaced, and the front has been pressure washed. The only thing left is to replace the flooring. We should be right on target with the improvements made. The new barge loading facility at the port is complete along with the punch list, but final payment has not been made. We have received $134.6 million this year from FEMA for $134.6 thousand this year from FEMA for 75% of the amount needed to cover the actual cost of fiber optic replacement along the riverfront, roadway improvements, and repairs to the Vidalia Canal due to the 2019 flood. The town's cost is 25% of this estimated cost to repair. The only item left includes related to the sewer and management fees. The town's portion for the sewer should be $39.8 thousand, which we should be receiving this in the next few days, actually. The town of Vidalia has applied for federal reimbursements through the State of Louisiana CARES Act for expenses and costs related to COVID-19. The town has received $488,000 this year. Sales tax collections for the year through February are up by $79,000 over the same time last year. It is time to begin working on the 2021 budget. Planning meetings will be scheduled with department heads, and board members are invited to attend, but only 2 at a time. The more input we receive from the department heads and aldermen, the better the budget will be and the goals can be established. An amended budget will be needed in the event we are 5% off in either direction in the special revenue funds and general funds. It is expected we will be amending the budget.
Okay. Any questions of Deborah's report? Deborah, as normal, I think you're another one I just can't speak highly enough of with the work that you do, and thank you so much for keeping us straight. Moving on to our item number 4 is discussion on upcoming budget meetings for fiscal year 2021-22. And basically, this is something just for discussion amongst the aldermen. How would y'all like to do it? We've done it different ways in the past. We've had where y'all can meet individually or 2 at a time with department heads, staff to discuss. And again, keep in mind, a budget is basically a guide. We try to predict, just like, you know, with the hydro, what we're going to get, what's it going to do, what's it going to produce. But, you know, this year, one of the things that the income hasn't been is because they were shut down because they did work on one of the few of their turbines. They shut it down for almost a month. Plus, they had reached a lot of their generation goals, and you know, once it reaches a certain amount, their income's reduced, and the town benefits from it by buying power cheaper, but you don't get the royalty over the overall picture. So that's things that we want to talk about, and it doesn't matter if y'all want to come in and meet, or if y'all want us to go ahead and have meetings, and then y'all look at, come in and visit with us after we have those meetings with department heads. And that's what I'm asking, putting out there on the floor for y'all. It doesn't matter to me. I'm open. We'll spend as much time as y'all want to discussing the budget, and we'd love for y'all to participate in it. It's something that I think is it's a lot of fun. You get to find out a lot of things going on within the interdepartments when we talk about line item issues, and you can ask questions about those line items. Why is this, and why is that? But we certainly encourage your input. And so when we do get to the approval of the budget, I think it's usually you're well informed on what's in there, and we can make any corrections before we get on the floor about what's going on. So that being said, what's y'all's pleasure?
I plan on meeting with Joy and getting together, put the budget together, but I also want to be in there when it's what we've done before.
Okay. You want to be on with all the department heads, and okay, all right. I hear John. I guess I'll go around and ask Alderman Probst.
I guess like you always done.
Okay. So we'll set up maybe 2 at a time, so it won't be as repetitive on staff to get together. So we'll try to schedule 2, and we'll get everybody in, and we'll try to. What we'll do is go ahead and have them put together things that they need, and when we get down in there, we'll discuss them with each one. And like we did last time, we'll have our meeting when we try to approve the budget. I would like to try to go ahead and try to get this budget approved for next year sometime, maybe as early as May, or even look at it by, you know, April. So I know that's a little ambitious, but so we'll be talking to y'all about it. And again, there's some things that we need to do in town to, and going forward, I'm looking forward to it. So we'll be contacting y'all. Deborah and Pam will be reaching out to each one of you, looking at your schedules and what our schedules are. And hopefully within the next 30 days, we'll start talking, okay? Is that good with y'all? Okay. All right, next thing we have is our outdoor sign application. This is for World Finance. It looks fine to me. Has anybody got any questions on this sign application? If not, I hear a motion to accept.
Make that motion.
I think Alderman Probst made the motion. Does Alderman Garner want to second it?
That's fine.
Okay, Alderman Garner second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, next thing we have is Ms. Sherry Ite here. She is the membership sales manager for AirMed, and she's going to ask for a contract between the town and AirMed Care Network. We've done this, I know of, since I've been in office. So, Sherry, do you want to come? Whoa.
The fourth year or maybe the fifth?
I know this would be, and since I've been in office 4 years.
so probably this is the fifth.
So this would be the 5th year that I know of, so I don't know.
Okay.
You can pull your mask down so we can hear.
Okay.
Okay.
First, I want to thank you for your continued support and allowing us to serve the citizens of Vidalia. Unfortunately, today, I'm not going to be able to give you any type of numbers as we have in the past. We are doing a major system upgrade, so therefore we aren't able to pull any type of numbers from the past year. I typically wait till right before the meeting to pull these numbers so I can give you some accurate numbers. Once our system comes back up, I'll be more than glad to provide that to you. I will come to the next.
Are you talking about the actual cost, dollars and cents?
I'm talking about actual flight volume
Okay.
to the city of the residents here in
Okay.
Vidalia. Because I think in the past, we've kind of gone over the last 12 months, how many people have actually been flown out.
Okay.
We are unable to pull those numbers at this time. Once the system comes back up, we hope will be by Friday. I should be able to get those numbers to you. If you need me to come to another meeting to elaborate, and if you have any questions on that, I'll be more than glad to do that. As we've done for, I guess, the last 5 years, if I remember correctly, we have what we call a municipal site plan that the city has provided for the city of Vidalia residents. What that typically is a plan for all the city of Vidalia residents. If anyone is airlifted in need of medical attention, life-threatening, time-sensitive, we got to get you out of here to that higher level of care. If they are picked up from Concordia Parish, Catahoula Parish, or Adams County, their bill is covered as long as they have insurance, okay? If they have no type of insurance whatsoever, they will be billed that Medicare allowable rate. Nothing has changed in the contract. It's the same thing that we're offering as we have in the past. So if you're insured, your bill's covered. We bill your insurance company, we accept what they pay as full payment, then we write that balance off, okay? If you are uninsured, that particular patient will be billed the Medicare allowable rate. So whatever that Medicare allowable rate is at that time is what they would be billed. An average of $6,000 to $8,000, which is still a huge discount when you're talking about a $40,000, $50,000 bill, okay? Along with this contract, every resident within the city does have the option to upgrade. Upgrading means they can upgrade to our full coverage. $45 a year for anyone below the age of 60, $35 a year for anyone 60 and above, okay? So if they live within the city limits, they qualify for that upgrade. That includes those that are uninsured. So I really want to push the uninsured to go ahead and do the upgrade, because if they do that, they won't receive a bill, okay? The price remained the same, so $19,394 from April to April of next year. No other changes have been made on the contract. Again, you still have your pickup locations, Catahoula, Concordia, and Adams County. Still going to cover all of your residents within the city limits. So anything life-threatening, time-sensitive that may be going on with them, and we have to land on the scene of an accident or pick up from those locations, they will be covered,
Right.
with the exception of the uninsured.
Sherry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Alderman Probst reminded me, we had discussions about employees.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to see, make sure, we have several employees that either live in Adams County or Catahoula Parish, or outside city limits.
Correct.
Can we pick up our employees that are on that are current employees and their families? Can we, even though they're not in city limits of Vidalia?
Absolutely.
Is there any way I can get y'all to include them to be, even though they might be in Jonesville, if you fly them, they're in Catahoula Parish, but they are a city employee, I think we should be able to get them you know, that coverage, I mean, now, if they want to upgrade, that's fine, but I think the employee and their.
If you do, your, as we talked about a couple of months back, and I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, Jay.
I think it was about $45.
The cost to the town?
Oh, yes,
Yes.
$45
$45.
per employee. So the number of employees were around 160-ish, am I correct?
Yes, that's about 155.
That was the town buying the difference over what they, I mean, what residents had, I mean, what they, if they were residents. I'm asking for the, for them that just, if they're flown, I mean, that they would get that benefit that the citizens get since they are employed here and they live in those three parishes or counties.
Right. They would be added to it under the business plan that we were talking about several months back.
I know, but there's that additional cost though.
Right.
Okay, I'm asking, can we get it to have them looked at, since they're employees of the town, as non-resident? I mean, as they're covered under what the citizen covered being employee of the town. For example, they're here working in our town, you know, chances are they get hurt here, I think I would like to have that benefit for them that they can do. Now, what we had talked about, my understanding was the additional, the difference if they've anywhere in the country that they would be flown. I'm talking about just for employees to have the same thing our residents have, since they are employees of the town. Now, if they want to buy the additional, that's up to them to get the additional.
Right, and of course, that's the way it is now for even the ones that do live within the city limits that are employed.
I understand that.
They
I'm
can
asking,
purchase it.
can AirMed look at handling, if our employees that live outside the city limits are hurt, since they are an employee for the town of Vidalia who is paying this bill, can we get them put on this list if they have to fly somebody in their family? That's what I'm asking.
I will definitely send that up the chain to see if we can do that.
Because that would
but-
be very important to me to get this benefit for our people who don't live in the city limits. A lot of, I'll take Cornell. Cornell's outside the city limits, but he lives right down the road here. We're turning at the red light, and if he's out there and he gets hurt in his yard, I mean, here's an employee right here on city utilities that we can't get.
Right.
I mean, for what we're paying, I just think for those few employees that live outside the city limits, you know, I'm asking, can y'all do
Okay.
that for us?
Do you have the number of employees that live outside of the city limits?
Well, we can get it.
You can get that?
We can get that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm
I
just
will
try-
definitely run that up the chain, to see if I can get that approved. There may be an additional cost to do that, because they don't live within the city limits. But I will run it up the chain to see if we can get that approved to add that to, the city of Vidalia coverage.
That would mean a lot to us.
Can we get
Okay.
that to be sure and put it on the agenda next, so we can clear this up? It's been going on for months, you know, and some of the
See.
employees are still wondering. They've asked
Right.
me.
Well,
about it.
I think the biggest thing that we were talking about, say, yeah, they weren't covered, but they could come in and buy
Right.
The upgrade.
personally.
But
Well,
we
see,
were-
that's what I had asked for before, is can we just for the employees buy the additional? You know, the town, and that would be a benefit for them
Right.
that the town would pay. And I think it would come, what, 7,000
I believe so. It was $45 times whatever
It
the
was around
number of.
7,000.
a year?
How many, so
A
how
year?
many people were involved, Jay? How many
Hundred
people?
I
Do you
don't-
remember?
Well, that was all of them. That would be for all of
That
them.
was making a
Oh.
benefit
That's for all the
for
employees.
Everybody.
But
That's
some of
it.
them live in Vidalia, see,
Some-
that's,
oh, yeah.
and see, they're still asking me different times, where are we at on that? You know, what do we determine if we live in Jonesville or if we live in Adams County? You know, so that's
Well,
why I
think
say,
that-
we never did clear it up and they're still in a,
Well, the issue then was, if the town was wanting to just make that a benefit, like the mayor said,
Right,
for
we-
everybody.
we took-
And
but-
even if they lived in Adams County or Catahoula, they'd be covered.
but we
Right.
never
Be
did,
paying. Right.
never did finish it, you know? And now we're at a point where Mayor Kraft asking them to give us
Right.
a help
And-
on that.
And the history on benefits like this, it will probably come back. Again, I'm gonna send it up the chain to see if that will change any opinion on our behalf. But what we would normally do is come in and say, hey, Mayor, we can offer this as a benefit to your employees at the $45 rate. As to where you're out of city limit employees are having to pay $65
Which would
through
be a
that
help,
additional benefit.
which would be a help. you
Right,
know,
right.
So,
So it would be just a flat $45 rate for all of the City of Vidalia employees if you just add it to the benefit package. And any business that is located within the city limits of Vidalia can do this for all of their employees, okay? So they would get that $45 rate as long as that business is located within the city limits.
on the upgrade, as far as, is that covering you outside, so everybody will know, just to make it plain to them, if you're out of Vidalia, Catahoula, or Adams County, the upgrade gives you the ability to anywhere in the United States, right?
Correct.
So everybody will know what you're talking about, the upgrade.
Throughout our footprint, we have, we're in 38 states with over 320 locations. And every year we are adding to that footprint. So, if they're traveling in California,
Right.
we have aircrafts there that will be able to take care of them as well. So yes, the upgrade takes care of them outside of those 3 locations.
And the rate again, so everybody on video and.
$35 if you are above the age of 60,
Right.
$45 if you are below the age of 60.
Okay.
Again, I can just see, like, especially all these utility workers, our police department, our fire department, who are workers, a lot of these workers don't live in the city limits. If they get hurt in line of duty, I feel like whatever it is, we should, if y'all could help us get them coverage in case they were to, say they were hurt here on the job. I just think it'd be a travesty if they had to fly them somewhere and they had to get stuck with that bill when you know, Vidalia's paying this, doing this.
Right.
I really
And
do.
again, if they get hurt on the job, you have workman's comp, right?
Yeah.
So workman's comp is typically gonna pay for, take care of that.
But help us out if you
So I have a
can,
question.
if you can.
Yes, sir.
My question is, are we going to just approve this $19,394 tonight, or we're gonna add the additional from the last time you came a couple months ago, or we're gonna add both together so the employees can have the coverage? What are we approving tonight, Mayor Kraft?
I think
Well, it's gonna be up to-
check into this other deal.
I think it's, they're gonna look into it. I would like to see what they have to say. I would like a report back so we could, say, I know we're doing, I think y'all would all be in agreement to do it, but I would want AirMed to seriously consider our request,
Okay.
you know, especially for the future.
That's why I'm saying, can't we just put it on for the agenda next month and ask
We
her to
can,
come
what
back
is the
with her
date of,
figures?
what is the contract date?
It is April 23rd,
So
I
we
mean,
have a time
approved.
for another meeting, so,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
So as it stands right now, the City of Vidalia residents' coverage did not go up. It's $19,394 for the entire year. I will go ahead and move it up the chain as far as covering the employees
The
that are
employees.
outside of the city
The
limits.
employees and their families. I mean, their immediate household,
Right, right.
okay.
I have a
And-
question. Is that $35, is that per person or is it a family? for
Per
the
household.
upgrade?
Per household. And another thing that I will throw out there, and we can definitely discuss this down the road, is I know that a lot of your residents come through the utility department and pay their bills here. If you would like for me to have a application available for those that come through the utility department to pick up when they come and pay, we can definitely have those ready for anybody, any of the residents here locally, just to pick up whenever they come through to pay their bill.
talking about for the upgrade.
Mhm.
You're still mailing them to the houses, right?
We do,
Yeah.
we do.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So, I just want to make sure, because we're coming up on the next meeting. So the 19,000 is the standard contract that the town pays for the residents.
Correct.
But then the other issue that was brought up was the paying, the 7,000 would have been providing the benefit for the upgrade to the employees paying fully for that. Now, that was one issue, but then this other is adding the out-of-town employees into this, but not paying for every employee. I mean, which way, or,
I was just, my concern was about getting the ones that were outside of Vidalia, that work in Vidalia. That's the question that I've been asked. Are we
providing the
covered or
business.
are we not? if
No,
we live-
the non-resident employee is not covered under this 19,000.
Right.
I want to get them in covered.
That's what we're looking at.
I want
trying
them to get
get.
covered. And I do want the council to really consider helping them get the upgrade, and that being a benefit to our employees in the, you know, in this, especially in this next budget to, you know, I think it was 7,000. I want to say that I think that would be a benefit for our employees and council or everybody associated with the town to have that. I'd like to see us, you know, maybe pay that difference for all the employees. And it would really help if y'all got those employees in just for Catahoula, Adams, and Concordia, that we can make that across the board and take care of all of them. So that would make it clean and equal to all of them, non-resident and resident employees.
Okay. So pretty much what you and I had discussed.
so in other words, if the town agreed to make that a benefit for all employees, any employee living in Catahoula or Adams County or anywhere in Concordia Parish would be covered.
Correct.
Mhm.
It wouldn't matter where that employee lives, they would be covered.
Under that $7,000 benefit.
Yeah, I would like to see it part of their benefit personally. I mean, we started the meeting praising them, you know, let's put our money where, or put the money where our mouth is. You know, I think that would just solve the whole problem.
You know, I think it would have been a shame if we would have had, and thankfully, we didn't have any tragedy happen during this winter siege that we had, that we had an employee that would fall in that case, get hurt, and then we couldn't take care of it.
Yeah.
I would really hate that.
Yeah.
But again, like she said, under that, it would be under workman's comp, which is
Right.
covered, they're covered under that. But again, that's why I brought it back up. We need to make a decision on this and get it done, because we've sat on it for about months.
Yeah.
Right, and this, again, this would cover the employee plus their family.
And that needs to be, whereas if it's just under workman's comp, it's just the employee that's covered. And
Right.
I'd like to see it benefit the whole
So when she
family.
brings it back, that's why I say let's put it on the agenda for the other, whatever she can get back to us with.
Okay.
Bring it back up
Sheriff,
next
you'll
month.
see what you can get and let us know ahead of time so we can, so we,
Table it. That's
so
the
we can
same.
get clarification. So
Okay.
the next meeting, we can jump right on it and make a decision and move forward with it. From what I'm hearing, I think all the councils is in favor of doing that, but it would help, you know, to make sure that family's covered, even though non-resident employees are covered.
Okay.
And then we can pay that difference, make sure they're covered everywhere all over the country, so.
Okay.
Because things do happen on vacations and so forth, so anyway.
Okay, well, I'll get with Jay with all, for all the other information that's needed, and
Okay.
I'll have all that together before the next meeting.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Again, well, thank you again.
Use the truck, or we can, have the people that we lease it from, buy it back from us and then release another truck. And that's what we've been doing throughout the whole, time I've been here. We've been releasing a new truck, trying to keep the employees in new trucks. Usually about after the third year garbage truck, if y'all have ever seen one running around town, it's got a lot of wear and tear, stop and starts, on that. So we got one now. Build time on the truck's kind of like a bucket truck. It can be anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. We've probably had them go out to almost a year. We had to do it. So we're doing this beforehand so we can get this set up before, so we don't run into something where we have to extend our lease to do the truck. And I've also been in talk with Mayor Craft about one of our backup trucks is a 2002. And we got that truck from Jonesville in a corporate endeavor, that we swapped them an old police car for an old garbage truck because they wasn't in the business of picking up garbage anymore. So that truck we've had it for probably 8 years now. And we use it as our backup truck, and if you ever see it on the road, it's a smaller truck. It doesn't hold the capacity of our trucks that we lease, and it's just usually used as a backup truck, and sometimes we'll run, 3 trucks like, we have after Christmas or something like that, where we have a lot of stuff out, we'll use it, but most of the time it's used as a backup truck. And, what Mayor Kraft and I were talking about doing, maybe not this truck, but another, we got another one coming up in a couple more months, and what we'd like to probably do, and then this is with the board, okay with this, is we'll put it in the next budget for, instead of releasing one, we will buy one. We'll buy the next truck coming off the line for, it usually runs around $100,000 or something other, and we'll keep that as our backup truck, and we'll get rid of the old 2002 model truck. So whenever we have to use one of our garbage trucks as a spare, we can have this bigger truck, they call it a Goliath, and we can hold more garbage. We can have a better truck. It'll be a 3-year-old truck that just come off the line. So, I mean, I appreciate the board being behind us on all of our garbage truck purchases and all of our equipment purchases, because I'm gonna tell you, we can't do our job without the equipment that y'all give us, and we can't get it without y'all getting it for us. So I appreciate y'all helping us out. Any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Landfill. I know Mayor Kraft's been out there, I think. You've been out there.
Our landfill.
What are we gonna do with those people to make them do what they're supposed to do, so we don't have to
landfill
drag our
just-
trucks in and out of there like we're
Our
having to
landfill
do?
just got bought out by another company.
Okay,
So hopefully we're gonna see, better service.
I hope.
than what we're getting, because the service that we've been getting, I mean, it's way cheaper. When we
Right.
had, when our landfill caught on fire, and we had to go out to the other landfill that we used to go to.
right.
I mean, we paid a premium price.
Just for numbers, our expense going out to that landfill is only around $5,000, maybe $6,000 a
know
month.
it.
When we took that other landfill, it went from $15 a ton to $44 a ton.
I know, but it's cheaper, but we still need to make them live up to their
Well,
obligations, so we're
they-
not dragging our trucks in and out of there.
If you, unless, anytime you do have a rain, it's gonna be some degree of that. There's no way around it. There's no
But
way
it's not
they.
just during rain, from what I understand.
Okay, now I don't know that. Now that's something.
It's not just from when there's rains, is it, Lee?
Well, it's, I mean, they're a new landfill. They've been in operation for probably 7-8 years. So the landfill that we were going to previously,
Right.
I mean, we were paying a premium price tipping fee for going to that. Now, we have been drug in that landfill and pulled out of that landfill.
Right.
That's just a thing that goes on after a rain. But this landfill, it's not up to snuff. I mean,
But this new company may bring it on up.
well, hopefully they will, and I've discussed it with the new owners. Went out there and had meetings with them.
Good.
I mean, it got so bad one time to where our trucks couldn't leave the landfill until we washed them, because the state highway patrol.
They wouldn't let you on the
down
highway.
there and
Right.
they'll write us
Oh, I
tickets.
know.
And that
I know
ticket
about
doesn't
it.
go to the city, that truck, it goes to the truck driver.
That's
So,
right.
They were having to wash the trucks after they left the landfill, so they could run up down.
Go on the
highway
road.
Without the DOT writing the ticket. But I mean, hopefully, I'm hopeful and that this will change.
Right.
And this new company that just took over is gonna change all that, so.
Good.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay. Mr. Staggs has got a request on the floor for, go ahead.
My question to Lee is 2 questions I have. One is, I know this is probably my 3rd time mentioning, on the corner of Concordia Avenue and Riverside, right there, that bump in the road is still there by that stop sign. Nothing has been done there yet. That's the first thing I have for you. I know we said we was going to get to it, but I noticed that it still has not been evened out right there by the Greater Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church. The second thing, I know you were saying, speaking about the $100,000 for a new truck, but I just want to say, hey, what's going on? I just want to ask this question for you to consider or think when you present your budget again pertaining to nothing has been done for their building. That's the complaint I'm getting from those employees at the department, that we were allowed this money for a brand new building to be comfortable in, and we're still going in this building that
Okay, I'll address the building situation. I have been in contact with we got a quote in for the building. picked out the spot where we're gonna put it, we picked out the plans of the building. The contractor is waiting on our department right now to, do the prep work for the building. So it's already been done, it's just, with this ice storm coming up, we hadn't had time to make the site, prep work done. So it's already been done, we've got the plans made. We're just waiting right now so we can get the prep work done so they can start pouring the slab. Other than that, it's,
Let's stay on task. They can call and get the, we got the issue with the truck. I mean, he's asking for.
I'll make a motion, we
Motion made that we go ahead and approve to advertise for bids. This is what this is to advertise for bids. That's what we are approving tonight.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Betts, second by Alderman Probst. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the last item on our agenda is board discussion and vote to name Frank Duson as a new full-time. We got code enforcement officer here. Let me go ahead and premise this, set the table for this discussion. Code enforcement. We can call him what you want to, okay? There's been some discussion, and I've talked with executive council with the Louisiana Municipal Association, and when it says by Larson Act that the police chief will be the one who enforces the laws and code enforcement, and what they're saying is the criminal code, okay? There's a criminal code and there's a civil code. The civil code is dealing with your zoning, dealing with nuisances like overgrown grass and things of that nature. I promise you, the police chief and all those people that went to academy did not have a, yard maintenance 101 course. They were doing law enforcement, learning that things are protecting us and serving the community, serving and protecting our communities. It was not writing tickets for somebody throwing grass in the street. That's not what their primary function is. This is dealing with civil code. This is dealing with maybe even overlapping with permitting and things of that nature. And what we have is we can call him whatever we want to, but I would like to see Frank get a unit. He will work under he can work he'll be paid out of the general fund. We know that code enforcement has been a headache for many municipalities. This is an effort to make it right. And Chief and I have talked. He's fine with it. He says that'll take a lot of his calls off. People complaining about things that he needs to be out there instead, taking care, investigating maybe if there's a burglar or something of that nature, or patrolling our streets, looking for people that might speed and run over a child or something like that. Those are things they need to be doing instead of making sure somebody is cutting their grass or something like that. They need to be on things that they are trained for, which is the enforcing criminal code. Even in our ordinance book, it is different. It specializes. It says what are police fines, and that police fines is those things that they do that would not be able to be done by somebody who just strictly is dealing with civil issues with our town. For example, if we have somebody who is starting to build a fence or somebody who's starting to build a building, Frank, I'm gonna call him Frank, will see that. He can stop by and ask these people, hey, have you got your permit yet? Hey, did you get the inspector to look over and make sure that that you're putting that fence up so you won't have to tear it down and redo it? This is something that's needed in our town. There's so many things that are going up around town we don't know about. On streets, people are putting up, garages that aren't to code. Those things are happening, and we have got to make a correction on that. Miss Rosa came to my office and she sat down with me. She said, I'm ready to get this straight. And so she came in and I said, well, we'll put it on the agenda, Miss Rosa, and that's what we're doing, and we're here to discuss it tonight. And I think that this is a step forward to doing and getting our town cleaner and making sure things are done right. Because if he sees somebody blowing clippings in the street, he can go by and issue letters. He won't be issuing tickets. He'll be sending letters dealing with, now if they don't correct it, there's a corrective measure. Karen White with the LMA sent me now Fight the Blight. Y'all know that we have successfully started a Fight the Blight program, which is dealing with buildings and things that are and I got Pyra Wilson here. Pi, go ahead and tell us a little bit about the number of buildings that going through this administrative court that we have an attorney that is a hearing, and it requires an attorney. And tell them tell the public how many buildings that y'all have overseen being torn down or have caused to be torn down by us attacking these blighted properties.
We have a total of 31 properties that are blighted. Of the 31, 13 have been torn down, by citizens on their own. 2 have been brought up to code. And, we have judgments on 6 of those properties. And 10 are still in the hearing process.
So those are buildings that are throughout town, and y'all seen many of them disappear. The old red barn up over there by the tire place, the building up there by C&M Crawfish. A lot of things you're seeing disappear. People just don't see it working, but it is being worked. They meet. How often do y'all meet? And it is a legal process that we've set up, and that's what we're gonna do. With this, we're gonna set up the legal process and ordinance. I think some of our aldermen are working on looking at sign ordinances. We also have a couple of aldermen gonna work with us on looking at some of these ordinances that are, that's outdated, it's really not applicable. It says, I made this example, it's in our ordinance, it says children can't ride their bikes on the sidewalk. That's in ordinance, in our ordinance book, which is ridiculous. We've got to get things that are more realistic in line with our town and what we need to do. So we're gonna be looking at that to get these things straight. And we can also look at this as we try to give a guideline. Mr. Dusson will be looking at the grass. He'll be looking at maybe, if he sees somebody doing something building-wise, he can contact the inspector to come. That's some of the things he'll be doing. He'll also be dealing with signs, political signs, or any other kind of signs that he sees along the road. That's a violation. People are not doing what they're supposed to do. The attorneys coming and putting their signs up and down our highway. He's going to have the authority to pull them up and then send them a letter. Hey, you can find your sign here. Don't put it back up. This is a lot of these things that he's going to do. He's going to be a very, very busy person, and he will be the one sending letters and reporting to us. And we'll let him do a report to the board on just some of the things that he's done. And
So I have a question.
Okay.
My question is salary. What will his salary be, and will the salary be set by yourself or the board?
Why didn't I hear what?
His salary.
Salary set by the mayor or the board.
He is already employed with the town. We're going to switch his with approval of with council. We're going to just he'll keep the same salary he's got, and when he gets over and he gets trained, I feel like he should be looked at to have some type of raise. But this has nothing to do with the marshal's office. This is strictly separate.
No, that's
So,
not my question.
and because the marshal's office will be completely separate than what he will be an employee that will be doing this, and it'll be the council will approve him to do that position, because this is a position that's basically I'm requesting a new position and to the council to approve it, and we can get busy and get him set up. I would like to set him up in the old marketing building up here by the
I'll
D.
make that motion that it be approved for Frank Dusson to be in that title of that position of code enforcement officer.
I didn't understand.
He made a
Alderman
motion
Gardner made a
already.
motion to
He's
approve.
already made the motion.
Approve.
I think we need to discuss before we make a motion.
Well,
We got
you
a few questions.
Well, we get a second, then we can discuss.
Well, let's
Is there a
do it.
second? Is there a second?
Well, I didn't know anybody else wanted to talk.
Okay, second by Alderman Betts. Now we can have discussion from. Okay.
Now, this is my concern, and this is what's happened in the past, because I've kept up with it pretty good. We write letters, we write letters, we write letters. I know in my neighborhood, there was 2 people, it took tickets now. So who's gonna issue the tickets? Because the tickets are what made these 2 people do a little better, because they ended up having to go to court. And the judge told them if they didn't, you got a problem. But the stuff of writing letters and all that, it needs to be where they're enforced through a ticket process, and through a fine, through a more of a fine, through more of a fine. But this stuff of writing letters and stuff, I've watched it for years.
Okay, well, that's what, we're getting it straight. Here's what's gonna happen. They're gonna get a letter. And now, not only, they don't, well, look, if they don't do it within that prescribed time of that letter, we're calling the contractor to cut it, and we're gonna add it to.
But we've been doing that. We've been doing that.
Well, I know,
What took
but when
place, and
when they
Joey
paying,
knows,
when they paying $150 to cut a $30 job, they're gonna.
It don't work that way, because it's a 12-week process. Now, this is what happens, and I've watched it over the years. 12 weeks, I have one right by my house. 12 weeks is what the process takes. Then they go for another 12 weeks, and the process takes. And then 3 times in the year, they cut their grass. It gets cut. And Joey knows, I've got an individual on Nichols Drive, I'm not gonna name a name. It took a ticket to make him, is that true or false, Joe? It took a ticket because he wasn't listening to nothing else. 2 tickets, before he went to court. And what happened after that? He started the process of cutting his grass, right? But before that, what did he do?
How much were the tickets?
I don't know, I didn't get involved in that. I don't know what the fine was, but it took him going to court. This, the $150 added to the tax roll after a 12-week process, just don't get it. The ticket needs to be issued, and all this needs to be reworked to where if it's a fine, if they don't do it in the first round, that fine's gonna be $500. They don't do it in the second round, it's gonna be $1,000 or $2,000. But you gotta get their attention. I had a house beside me that went through the process this high. Water moccasins, rats, and everything in the yard because it never did get done. Correct, Joey?
That's why we're fixing it, and this is gonna be the step in fixing it, and I think it's gonna fix it. If it don't fix it, you can say, a year from now, I told y'all, still, it's not, you know, we're fixing the situation. That's what I'm asking for tonight, is that this is gonna be a step in doing it. I can promise you, you know, when we send somebody in there, a contractor or somebody with the town to cut it, and we can cut it as the town, we can send employees in there to
We've been
cut
doing
it.
that. That's the point I'm making.
Well, we hadn't been doing that. I mean, it's been,
But it took a 12-week process to get it done because the time you send your letters
Well,
and run it in the paper and all the stuff that's involved.
that's because so many people are touching it. The police department's touching it. The letters gotta get to me to sign. The letters gotta get back to someone, gotta be advertised, gotta do this. We're streamlining it where it's gonna not take 12 weeks.
Okay, well,
That's what this is
that's the
for.
point I'm making. I
That's,
hope it
I've
doesn't take
got,
12
we're
weeks.
setting up this procedure, and we're gonna wind up making ordinance and putting teeth in it to where
Right, where-
it's streamline the process.
And a fine big enough to where if they don't.
And legally.
That-
That's the other question. We
That's-
got to make sure we do this within our legal means, and that's what we're gonna do. Once we get this approved, we're gonna pick it up, and we're gonna lead the charge, and we're gonna start getting these, there's lots that hadn't been cut in 2 or 3 years, lots.
And there's cars that are abandoned, they're sitting out there.
That's
in the
abandoned
in
cars
his
is gonna be
yard
on this, be under his,
that need
be
to
under
be
him as well.
Towed off somewhere because
Yeah.
I'm getting complaints of it.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, I wanna be sure we're gonna, like you said, streamline it, where it doesn't take 12 weeks. And
It's-
such, that guy cuts his yard 3 times a year, and the guy next to him cuts his every 2 weeks or every week. You see what I'm saying?
We're gonna streamline it, and we're gonna work very hard on getting this done, and it's gonna work fine. It's-
All right.
So, okay, anybody else got any questions?
I was just sort of along the lines of Tommy. I was wondering, who's gonna issue the fine? I mean, is there a fine? Will Frank be able to, I mean, cause I agree with
That was
Tommy.
my
We need to,
Yeah.
you know,
There's gotta be a consequence,
Well,
because it hadn't been
I
a
would
consequence.
say if they wind up being habitual, we can put that in ordinance. Well, if we cut it after 1 or 2 times, then he will be issued a ticket. And
See,
I don't think the
that's
police chief will have any
that's what
trouble
we're
after,
talking
I mean, after he's had to pay $150. Also, now, this is turned in, it's set up to where if he doesn't pay, we can also turn it into Department of Revenue where they will collect it out of their taxes, or a Department of Revenue will go after them, and they'll send us the money for it.
But I
if it's not
understand that,
taxes.
but what it took, and like Joey knows, it took tickets to really get their attention, didn't it? It had to cost them something right then.
Well, and look, this is gonna be a process. This is to start correcting this. That's what we're doing. We're starting to fix a problem that's been in the town for years and years and years. Not since we've come here, but it's been a problem for years. and we're trying this, and it's gonna work. We're gonna do it. I'm confident it is. And I'm gonna encourage citizens to, I wanna put him up there in that marketing building. He'll have an office, computer, where he'll issue these letters, and he'll stay on top of it, and he'll report to City Hall. And if we have to come report to you guys, and if you hear any complaints with it and it's taking too long, then we'll address it. But it is gonna require us to look at some ordinances, which we'll do, and look at streamlining it and keeping it legal. I got a template from the LMA, Ms. Karen White, and it's gonna be legal and it'll be streamlined.
Okay, question.
So, yes, ma'am.
Upon him investigating and then finding that it's out of compliance or whatever, what would he do then? Would he send a letter to the person or the business or whomever?
Well, depending on, first thing you have to do is identify first, example, somebody lives out of town, he'll send a letter, and they have 10 days to comply. If they don't do it, we can go ahead and cut it. I think that's in here. You go ahead and cut it.
Okay, but
So it ain't 12, 10 weeks.
But
If they don't answer that letter, in 10 days, we can cut it. We'll send somebody in there to cut it, and then,
But you gotta run it in the paper, is what she's saying. You gotta run it in the
Well-
paper.
So is this going to only be about grass cutting and that sort of
no.
thing?
It could
Because
be
Junk car,
all
more-
he will
be
go by and
everything.
identify a
we
car.
have more nuisance
Yeah.
than just grass.
Right, you
We
have,
have houses that have been abandoned and
That's the-
falling down.
that's the blighted property. That's the
Okay.
31 properties they've
We also have
identified.
old cars.
That'll be under his thing. He'll put a letter, if there's somebody that's in a resident, he'll send a letter to them. Or if we have people that have abandoned cars, they'll just leave them. You gotta find out who the owner of them is and then notify them, or we'll have it towed and put in storage. And this is things that we're gonna readdress these ordinances on dealing with these nuisances that we've been experiencing. Streamlining it, giving him complete responsibility on taking care of those things. And, it's not, did Joe and them write him a ticket, or well, did y'all send the letter yet? Did so-and-so do this yet? It's gonna be, we're going to one person and say, hey, look, what's the status on this? And that way you won't be, curious about, or if somebody says, there's a garage sale sign on our state, welcome to Louisiana, somebody got a big old pink garage sale sign on there, he can go by and he sees that, he can pull it off there and tell them, you do this again, you're gonna get So these are things that it's just gonna help our town. This is a starting point. I'm asking that y'all bear with us. We're gonna implement it as quick as possible. We'll be bringing y'all any ordinance changes on trying to streamline it. And I think it's a positive thing. I'm excited about it. I think our town's gonna look good, and we're gonna work together to get it looking better. And I think this is a step in the right direction. Our police chief and them, they can start focusing on things that are really, really important as far as, keeping our community safe and coming up with ways to make sure our neighborhoods are safe and we keep the people out that Vidalia, I'm proud to say, has done a fantastic job on keeping crime out of the town. So I really appreciate the work that they do, and they'll be commended on that. I think to waste that personnel on, running somebody down because they threw some grass clippings in the street and threatening them with a ticket is not something that we want. I think Frank will do a good job of dealing with these people and dealing with these issues that's gonna come up. I really do. So, he's already in the general fund. I mean, it's under the street department, he's an employee there, so he's already employed. It's not gonna be an increase in the budget, but it's gonna change his responsibility to that. So it's basically new, and I'm asking for that position to be new, and we can call him whatever y'all wanna call it. It don't matter to me what we call it. So,
Whenever they get ready to make the approval, reminder that I made the motion, so I want to keep it on the floor that I already made the motion.
Got it written.
pardon?
Want to make
Robert
sure you
wanted to
made the motion. I said, I got it written down.
Okay. Second was made by Alderman Denby. And, any more discussion? Okay, let's have a vote. Let's do it by roll call.
I had that the second was by Alderman Betts.
Oh, did Alderman Betts?
Well,
Okay.
we both said it, so
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
The motion before the board offered by Alderman Gardner, seconded by Alderman Betts. is to approve Frank Dusine as the new full-time code enforcement officers for the town of Vidalia. Alderman Betts,
Yes.
Alderwoman Denby,
Yes,
Alderman Gardner,
Yes.
Alderman Probst,
Yes.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Mayor, let the record show that the vote is as follows. The yeas are 5, the nays are 0, and the motion passes.
Okay. Thank you all so much. I think you're going to see a big difference in our town. I know the residents are going to appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. Do I hear a motion we adjourn?
I'm adjourned.
Motion made by
Second.
Brett, second by Ms. Denby. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.